Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another Sporting160EN podcast. Today, it's podcast number 18, and I'm joined by my very good friends here, my very good Sportingistas around me. Let me start off with Steph. Steph, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, man. After that very difficult win at home, which against a very good team, Feirense, we got the 3 points, and now we took a break for the national team, and we have 10 points. We're in the race when no one was expecting us to be, so I feel pretty good.
Yeah, me too, me too. We also got from across the pond, Patrick. Patrick, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good with that win as well behind us. As Steph just said, we're looking all right in the league table, and obviously an important week coming up for all of us as well with the elections and all that. So, yeah, ready to get talking.
For sure, for sure. And also, last but not least, I'm joined by my boy Nando. Nando, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, buddy. I'm doing well. I'm excited about that win, and I'm excited / nervous about this election. Pre-election eve almost.
Yeah, it's amongst us. It is amongst us. We'll definitely touch on that later on in the podcast. Let's start off with the big win against Feirense at Avalad this Saturday, I think it was. Sporting's starting 11 was as followed. We had Salin in net again for his fourth consecutive game in a row. We had Jefferson at left back, Andre Pinto at right back, replacing the injured Jeremy Mathieu. We had Sebastian Coates also partnering him at center back. We had Stefan Ristovski. And then in midfield, we had Marcos Acunha, Rodrigo Botaglia, and Bruno Fernandes. On the wings, we had Nani and Rafinha. And then up top, we had Montero replacing the injured Bas Dost. Goal as well coming from Jovan Cabral, our super sub. The kid is magic at the 88th minute. Anyway, Steph, let me start with you. What did you think of the game? How did Sporting do? And all your thoughts about the game, basically.
Basically, Sporting came out blazing. We kept the pressure on Feirense, and we created more chances of goal than Feirense, but Feirense did create a couple chances of goal in the counterattack, like we were expecting, because Feirense does have my personal opinion, I think they have a better midfield than we do at this time. We have quality players in the midfield, but that's our weaknesses. Our weakness is the midfield. We're not there yet, quite yet. We do need somebody else to create, to be the brain of the game. And then our wings, our two fullbacks, they getting there. Exception for Jefferson, of course. He's still a disappointment. But Vitovsky played much better this time, defensively and offensively. Jefferson is still a little bit lost. I don't know why, because he's been playing our league for such a long time. So by now, if he does learn how to play the game the way it's supposed to be played, it's way too late. I think Lumor should be given a chance because we don't have anybody else at left back, or we drop Acuna, like we've said it several times in other podcasts. But besides that, we kept the pressure. I'm in love with Rafinha. Rafinha he's a super stud. He played well the whole game. I'm predicting to score at least 15 goals, and we're gonna need that. Besides Bajda scoring 30 goals per game, per season. But all I gotta say about this game is we kept the pressure on Feirense. We played better than them. But Edinho, they used to play with Stubble and came to Feirense. He could have scored at halftime if he didn't yank the ball. But besides that, it's a deserved win. Giovanni is showing that he's a super sub, like you said. He comes in and he shakes the whole game with his speed. And today they renewed his contract, which until 2023. So I was very happy about that.
Yeah,
But
likewise.
overall, Sporting was better. We did deserve the win. But I hope that Diaby will be the gap that we need, the empty, forward that we so much need. Because Bajdas, when he gets hurt, Montero is excellent in keeping the ball, in being a pivot, let's call it that way, and holding, but he doesn't score as much as he used to, and we need a player like that. So to recap, we deserve to win, and we got the 3 points. I know it was a late goal, but I don't care as long as we win. But I would like to see Sporting getting better and better and finding the chemistry, especially in the midfield. And then if we have to drop Acuna, let's drop Acuna. And you know what? We'll have Nani in one wing, and we'll have Giovanni in the other wing, or Rafinha. But and then in the midfield, we need to find a solution so we can drop Acuna to the left. And that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you there, Steph. Patrick, give us also your 2 cents. Hey, Simba. Sorry, my dog wants to talk as well. Patrick, give us your 2 cents on the game as well. What did you think of this Feirense team as well, and as well as our Sporting?
Yeah, so positives first, obviously, very important to clock another victory, and given the start to the season that Sporting had, obviously, complications were expected. So to come out at the end of the day with 10 points out of a possible 12 and be level with the likes of Braga and Benfica at the top of the table, you can only ask for that at the end of the day, results-wise. But obviously, performance-wise, it wasn't up to scratch. I don't think it wasn't quite the performance that Sporting would like to see. And obviously, you do have to take into account that Feirense are a very decent side. They're a team that are defensively well structured, and then they have interesting players that can affect the game further up the field. The likes of Tiago Silva and Sturgeon, who caused us troubles on a few occasions. I thought Sporting came into the game quite well. We started with a decent intensity, but I think the problem was that the ideas sort of began to fizzle out quite quickly, and it allowed Feirense to reorganise themselves and stifle us a bit. And if we to look at the chances, perhaps Feirense come away with the best couple of chances to initially break the deadlock, which obviously I'm talking about the Adinho free kick, which just hit the top of the bar, and he then had a chance towards the end of the first half, which he put over, which perhaps he should have scored from that position. But then, second half we bring on Jovan Cabral to try, shake things up a bit in attack, and it worked well again for Sporting. I think we've had a few moments now where the players coming off from the bench are the ones that are affecting the game positively. So at least we have that going for us, and we do have interesting options off the bench, particularly the wide men, to really help us in these sorts of situations. So that's another thing to look forwards, like following the international break. Another thing that will be important will be how Nemanja Gudeli settles into the Sporting team. We know that he was included in the squad, but we haven't seen him just yet. Hopefully he can bring that sort of control that Steph was talking about, the brains behind the operation, and Sporting can start knocking the ball about a bit better, because there were lots of moments where, for example, Coates or André Pinto would receive the ball, and these are competent defenders. They know how to pass the ball, but the ideas as a team just weren't there, so they'd knock it long, and a lot of with Freddie Montero, especially in attack, you're asking a striker who's 5'9", 5'10" to essentially battle with defenders, and what's likely to happen is Sporting are just giving away possession, which happened a lot, especially in the first half. So yeah, we need to regain some sort of control, some sort of method to our play, a nice structure going forwards, and hopefully in the future, in the near future, Gudeli will be the man to bring that into Sporting's midfield. So to reiterate, positive victory, but we're right to expect more, and hopefully there is more to come from this team and from José Peseiro.
Yeah, 100%. Fernando, to sort of change gears a bit, still talking about the game though. Um, talk a bit about how you've seen our midfield battle, what you think changed for Sporting to sort of get us the goal, and what you thought of Rafinha as well. Just quick on, I think it was yesterday, the day before, Sporting160, João Castro, I believe it was, spoke how Rafinha reminds him of a Di Maria, especially the young Di Maria who played at our rivals at Benfica. What did you think of Di Maria? Do you think he should be starting week in, week out? And then again, what did you think of our midfield, and what changed for Sporting to help us get that win?
Yeah, man, Rafinha is really a interesting player because he's so dynamic in the way that he can attack and defend. Obviously, he's much more useful for us as an attacking player, but you can notice that he's affecting the players around him for the positive. For example, Ristowski is able to attack with much more conviction, and he's able to creep up the field even if he's not going on those long runs, because he knows that Rafinha is going to cover that backside and is going to come back and take over if need be, because he's simply that fast, and he seems like he has lungs for days. I think he's been an amazing revelation. I was calling for him. I think a lot of us was calling for him to start and get the nod early on in the season. I'm very happy that he's gotten it now 2 straight days in a row. He's completely changed the way Sporting attacks. Now, in relations to Sporting as midfield, I'm not happy yet with how we're playing as in midfield in general. I think we obviously have a lot of individual talent there, but as a unit, I think we've discussed this over several games. We're not quite sure how we want to put this team together, whether we want Acuna to be more of a defensive midfielder, or whether we want Acuna to kind of cover more of that Jefferson side of things and kind of fall back a little more. I think the fact that we don't know where Acuna is going to be the majority of the time and what kind of position he's going to be playing under Pizarro is going to that's going to be a huge influence on how well we play as a whole. Bruno Fernandes is, in my opinion, he's not there yet mentally, physically. I don't know. I know he was a little banged up, but he's just not quite there yet. But obviously, he's going to get the start. He deserves to be a starter. We know of his talents. But the Bruno Fernandes, Acuna, Batalla, setup, even Nani at times, it seems like Pizarro is kind of going with a trial and error and trying to figure out where or what he wants to set this team up to do. I think Rafinha definitely needs to start. I think Batalla is always going to start. Acuna most likely will, but it's a matter of, and so will Bruno Fernandes and almost Nani. So we kind of could say that those 5 guys right there are always going to be starting. It's just a matter of where they're going to be playing. I think Sporting's goal was a little late. Obviously, we had plenty of opportunities to get a goal in, and many times during that game. Stat-wise, overall, Sporting obviously outplayed Feirense from start to finish, bar a few opportunities that Feirense had to kind of scare us. I'm glad that goal came. I was starting to worry that was going to be one more of those games where we lose points at home to a team that we were just playing better than. So that goal came in. Our superstar sub, Giovanni Cabral, he's really, really fun to watch. I love his energy off the bench. I love what he's bringing to the table as a whole. And that's what's the word I'm looking for? That stuff is addicting. If players feed on that, players get excited around that. Players that might be a little tired suddenly catch second wind or third wind, and then they try to play up to that level of excitement. So for now, I love that Giovanni's on the bench. I love what he's bringing. He's a force to be reckoned with if you're an opposing team, knowing that sooner rather than later he's going to come off the bench and do things. But as a whole, very satisfied with how the team played. We've all kind of talked a little bit about how important Bas Dost is, and guys like Mateo is. So we're missing 2 starters. Definitely on the defensive end, Mateo is huge. He matters. He's going to be a starter overall. And then Bas Dost, obviously, as good as Montero has been filling that hole. Montero isn't a goal scorer. He's not a poacher. He's going to help disbalance teams, but he's not going to put games away. But overall, man, the midfield, the team, everything's doing well. The midfield, I like what they're going towards. I'm not quite sure what the end result is going to be, but so far, I think we'd all agree that Rafinha needs to continue to start. And I think it's just a matter of what do we do with Acuna and Nani and maybe even Bruno Fernandes. Like, what point do we go like a 4-1, 2-1-2? Do we go 4-3-3? That's the question. I'm sure everybody here has an opinion on, but hey, a win's a win. And like Steph said at the beginning of the podcast, we've got the points that we have, and that's all we could ask for. We're in it, and it's still early, but we're in it, and that's all that matters.
For sure. Patrick, just to go to you real quick, what are your thoughts on it? It seems a bit of a worry. At least I'm not too worried about it, but it's a bit of a cause for concern. I think maybe you disagree with me, but I think this is Bruno Fernandes' third game in a row where he was essentially ineffective, where he wasn't at his best. He wasn't the Bruno Fernandes of last season. Definitely wasn't the Bruno Fernandes of our first game. What are your thoughts? Do you think he needs to grow into the season? Do you think it's the sort of drama he went through with him rescinding and coming back, or is it teams figuring out that he is our creative spark sort of in the middle? What do you think of this sort of slump from Bruno Fernandes?
Well, personally, I think it's clear that Bruno Fernandes is a very important player for Sporting, and just the fact that he isn't playing as well as he could, be it by a lack of form or just not being totally fit to undertake his duties. The fact that that's happening might also play into the fact that Sporting, in terms of creativity, that haven't really found their stride yet. I don't think that we should worry too much, because he is a player who I think tends to be very consistent, and we saw that throughout last year. He rarely had a bad game. And in fact, pretty much all of his games were played out to a very good standard. So, me looking at the situation, we know that he had that knock on his ankle. I'm hoping that it's just something that's holding him back physically, and that with the international break and all that, with the weeks going by, perhaps he can recharge a little bit, and take it easy a little bit more, and then come back to Sporting ready to make an impact. Another thing that I do think would help both him and Sporting is that he currently, in my opinion, I see him playing a role that's a lot closer to the striker, which in days gone by under Jesus was probably where I preferred him to play, because Sporting had greater control of games anyway, with William and Battaglia holding the pivot in midfield, so we were able to get the ball up quite confidently. So it helped to have someone like Bruno Fernandes in and around the area. I think Sporting would benefit a lot more if he dropped a little bit deeper into a midfield three. But obviously what that would do is it would require Bruno Fernandes to be a little bit more combative anyway. So that's why I think he's pushing up a little closer to Freddie Montero, getting himself away from the areas of action, a little bit like he did against Benfica. We didn't really see him battling with the likes of Acuna and Battaglia. So perhaps with time, once he's feeling 100% ready, I think perhaps he will drop into midfield a lot more, and we will start getting a lot more out of him. That's the only thing I can see that's holding him back, really. It's physically, whether that knock is affecting him and he's just being a little bit cautious on it.
Yeah, fair. I actually agree with you too. I think if he drops down a bit deeper to get more involved with the play sort of thing, it'll definitely benefit us a lot more. Nando, quick off to you. Another hot topic. I think we mentioned it last week. I'll mention it again this week because the kid saved us. So Jovan Cabral be starting, or what do you think?
No, not at all. I don't think he should be starting yet. If he continues to perform coming off the bench to the level that he has been performing, I think you have to start to, consider who he could replace. I can see a situation coming up where maybe Nani gets tired or Nani isn't performing well, and Giovanni could be a good replacement for a guy like Nani. Nani could then become a very important sub off the bench. And I love to have that kind of problem. I think that'd be wonderful for us to sit here and go like, dang, should we be starting Nani or Giovanni Cabral, because they're both, going to produce, or we know that they should be producing. So I think that Giovanni should stay on the bench. Giovanni seems to be enjoying that role. And a lot of these young players, they kind of feed off of that. Some players love to start off and be starters, but others love to come off the bench where the pressure isn't necessarily there yet, and kind of, let their minds go crazy and get fun and exciting. And like I said earlier, that stuff is addicting. So Giovanni, in my opinion, definitely should continue to be the and force teams to make adjustments late in the game in kind of assuming that Sporting is going to bring in Giovanni. I think that will open up the playbook for Pizarro a little better, and it'll let Pizarro start to kind of play with the lineup and the opposing team's coaches if he does it well. Because if you're expecting a Giovanni to come in, you're going to change things around in a way that's going to hope, if you're a team, you're going to try to stop that. You're going to try to, slow him down. But if you prepare well, then at the same time, that should be a good counter for Sporting. That's going to open up other guys like Rafinha and Nani or whoever else is on the pitch to do other things. So definitely keep him on the bench. I love him in that role. I'm excited for the kid.
Yeah, definitely. I actually agree with you as well. I think, to go off the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think he definitely adds a bit of a spark coming off the bench. And even Nani, that'd be really the only person I'd see him maybe replacing. But Nani's been playing pretty well. I can't really complain too much of our current captain. Just to quickly throw in my 2 cents on the game, I thought we played really well, especially in the first half. We attacked with intent, as we've been seeing lately under Pizarro. Right off the first minute, we were there at the net. We could have scored a goal. I think had it not been for Feirense's goalie being on point and being inspired, I guess we could have easily won this game by a few goals and really had a comfortable game like our rivals did this weekend. The only chance I can really remember from them was the Adingu off the bar in the first half. I forget 1 minute. But aside from that, I thought Feirense did well. I think players like Sturgeon was all right, and Thiago Silva were decent for them and providing a bit for them offensively. But like I said, the first half was all Sporting. Second half, we sort of dipped a bit, but we at the end got the 3 points. I think Rafinha was immense. And to finish this off, I'll quickly give my opinion, and then I'll ask you guys. Or actually, I'll just ask you guys right now. Who was your man of the match for this game? Patrick, I'll start with you.
I'd have to go for I would say Cabral, because he was the guy who initially changed the game coming off the bench, but I don't really like going for substitutes that much. So I'll say Rafinha, who I thought had another very solid game, and is someone who I think, in the absence of Gelson, will be very important to Sporting this season. So another good performance for him, and I hope he continues to make the starting 11.
100%. Nando, who's your man of the match?
I'm gonna say Rafinha, man. I think that ability to just push up the field and create havoc. The guy just seems like he's never tired, and he's exciting. He's fun, and I think at this point, with everything that's happened to Sporting this offseason, any player that comes in with that kind of energy and is that fun to just be around, it seems like players enjoy playing with him. I really, really enjoyed watching Rafinha.
Yeah, I agree with you guys 100%. I think Rafinha was our man of the match, provided us the most spark. I guess if the only person that would rival Rafinha in this category, I guess, would be Feirense's goalie, because he was really great. Anyways, before we totally get off the soccer calendar, or whatever, football calendar, whatever you want to say, call it, since the last podcast, our Europa League group came out. I was just going to read it off to you guys really quick and get your opinions on it. So we're in Group E. We have Vorskla Poltava of Ukraine, We have Karabag of Azerbaijan, and we have Arsenal over in England. Patrick, what do you think of this group and your expectations of it?
It's a nice group. Obviously, there's a giant in there, a clear favourite, which is Arsenal, which is coincidentally the club I support here in England.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, so that'll be a tricky test for Sporting, particularly away from home. But it's good to have teams like that in terms of your preparation for the season and whatnot. It'll be a good test for Sporting to see where they are, essentially, whenever that game comes about. I think there's one at the end of October and then one at the beginning of November. But, clearly against Vorskla and Karabag, Sporting should definitely fancy their chances of at least finishing second in this group. There will be tricky ties, especially the long journeys. The ones at Azerbaijan will be quite a testing one. But realistically, Sporting should be at least finishing second and seeing on a head-to-head basis what they can do against Arsenal.
Oh, sorry, I was talking with my mic muted. Nando, same with you. What do you think of this group, and what are your expectations for us?
Expectations are to at least get out of that group second. I think we can do some interesting things with an Arsenal team that I'm not sold on, and I don't, find that scary at this particular time in the season. So second place at the very least, with hopefully some interesting results against Arsenal. But I am a little worried, and we have to be cautious with just like Patrick said, those long travels and being able to come back from that. What does that do for the team, and not only for the Europa League, but also for the regular season? But I think second place should definitely be attainable, and obviously I would be extremely embarrassed and disappointed if Sporting can't come out of that group.
Yeah, and I agree. Just to finish off, I think second is definitely obtainable. I think that should be our main goal. Arsenal, they're a tough match. I always give Arsenal a bunch of stick, but they're definitely a tough matchup. New manager, different style. Hopefully that their adapting periods can sort of benefit us, and hopefully Arsenal can be as injury prone as they have been in recent years, so that we don't have to face the likes of Aubameyang or anything like that. And then we have Karabag, who is another tough team, who tends to be in Champions League. Mind you, they tend to also get slapped in Champions League, but they tend to be there. So it's definitely the group could have definitely been easier, but I think it could have definitely been harder for us as well. I think the most annoying thing is the traveling, but hopefully the players that stayed from last year and remember the 14-hour trip to Kazakhstan can use their experience in that and help along the team. Now to move over to our transfer window, I'm going to go through the players that we bought and the players that had left. So the players that we brought in, Marcelo from Rio Ave, for an undisclosed fee, as well as Rafinha from Vitória Guimarães, undisclosed fee. We brought in Bruno Gaspar from Fiorentina for 4.5 mil, Emiliano Viviano for 3 mil. We have Nani that came on a free. We have Stefan Sturaro, who will eventually join us when he comes back from his injury, coming in on loan from Juventus. This doesn't give us everything. We have Gudeli, who came in from Evergrande, whatever their name is, from China. We have Abdoulaye Diaby coming in from Club Brugge. We have, and is that it? Oh, and Renan Ribeiro from Estoril. And then finally, for some loans that came back that are going to hopefully help us out, we have Carlos Manet coming back. We have Jefferson, as we've been mentioning for a while now, who came back. And I think that is it. And then leaving us, we had Doumbia leaving us, who went to Girona. We had Matheus Pereira, who went on loan to Nuremberg. We had Francisco Geraldo, who went also to England, to Germany, who went to Frankfurt. And I am forgetting a bunch, but more or less we get the gist of it. Nando, I'll start with you. What did you think of our transfer window this summer? What do you think could have been improved? And what do you think we did right?
Well, I think that we started off. It's a mixed bag, man. I think that we started off the transfers this year kind of not quite knowing which route we wanted to go in terms of which positions we were going to start to fill. We were a little bit all over the place. We had, the transfers coming in that we purchased last season during the season. Guys like the dude out of Juventus is a disappointment for me. I mean, I hope I get to, eat my words later on. But I think that, he was deflating in terms of coming in injured, or we're not even going to see him at least till halfway through the season is quite frustrating for me. So I'm not quite sure what to do with that. And given that how big of a transfer that was, I think overall the other transfers seem to fit some sort of need. Goudelli at the end here, the other guy, the up top guy I forget his name off the top of my head. You just mentioned him.
Diaby.
Diaby, yes, thank you very much. I think that those two are good, but I think that overall we're still missing a striker, a solid striker to compete with Bajdosh for the position, or to at least give Bajdosh a breather when he needs it. That kind of concerns me, because over the past few seasons, not having a guy that's going to take over Bajdosh's position, or at least sort of like Porto does with Abubakar and Marega, or Benfica has done with Jonas, and then the guy who they just let go. But I think that not filling that hole, a solid striker, spend a little bit more money to get a striker and not so much on other players would have been very, very important, because we brought in a lot of the other players. We have some young talent as well that we could have brought up. But I don't know, man. It's a mixed bag. I like some stuff. Some other stuff scratches my head. The mostly, I'll finish off with the guy out of Juventus. That just doesn't make any sense to me, man. If the guy can't play right off now, chances are he's not going to be very helpful for us halfway through the season. I could be wrong, but chances are he won't. And then not getting a guy to play with Bajdosh is going to hopefully not be a huge issue, but most likely it will be.
Yeah, I agree with you. Though I do think Storaro, the little that I've seen from him, I was impressed. Okay, let me just do this a bit better, because I kind of messed up. I found a better page for the departures, at least, because there have been a lot of departures that obviously I didn't mention. So we obviously lost a key figure in our midfield, William Carvalho. He went to Betis for 18 mil. We lost Piccini, our starting right back from last season. It was official, the Tobias sale. We lost Heldon, who was always on loan. Again, Sheikh Geraldo went to Frankfurt. We lost Spalvis, who never played a game for us. We lost Dumbia. Pedro Silva went to Tondela, who's an up-and-coming youngster as a goalie. Jonathan Silva went to Leganes on loan with an option to buy. Rui Patricio, as we know, went rescinded with us, went to Wolves. We'll hopefully see the money soon after the courts give us every reason. Rafael Leão as well. Brian Ruiz, at the end of his contract, went to Santos in Brazil. We also lost Paul Vincent and Gelson Martins to Olympiacos and Atletico Madrid, respectively. We loaned out Domingos Duarte to Deportivo La Coruña. We loaned out Mateus Oliveira to Vitória Guimarães. Ryan Gauld and Pedro Delgado went to second division Feirense. And Pelinha went to Braga. As I mentioned, Mateus Pereira went to Nuremberg. And we lost, but thankfully we lost Ruben Ribeiro, who also rescinded his contract with us. From that list of departures, Patrick, definitely there's obvious ones, but who are the ones that definitely leave you more concerned and you definitely think had a spot here at Sporting and had something to say, whether off the bench or even a starting position?
Well, the the departure that leaves me concerned the most is Williams, because obviously to lose a player like that, and I don't think Sporting have fully covered that with the players that have come in. A lot of people say if you win the midfield battle, then you're halfway towards winning the game, and midfield battle can be split between winning the ball and controlling the ball, and I think we've got the players to win the ball back in Bataglia or even Acuna if Peseiro fancies that invention. But in terms of controlling it, which Sporting will need to do as a big Portuguese club, and being wise on the ball, I don't think Sporting have the minerals to do that without a guy like William. We'll see what someone like Godelli can do. But it's important to remember that he hasn't had the best of times in China. So essentially, when he's the only ball-playing midfielder that we can liken to someone like William, we're asking him to come straight into our team and settle in more or less immediately. And he's the only player that can do that. So if he doesn't quite work out, then Sporting could find themselves in a spot of bother. So in terms of the transfer window in general, I'm a little bit disappointed that Sporting didn't look for perhaps another player with similar characteristics to Godelli, or even going for a carbon copy of William elsewhere. I'm disappointed that Sporting don't have what would be a backup idea to Godelli to throw in there in case things don't turn out to be in case things don't turn out well with the Serbian. In terms of the departures, obviously the two big names for me are Gerald, who is someone who has impressed in patches out on loan, and who Sporting fans, including myself, have a great admiration for. He's someone who, for example, now in the absence of Bruno Fernandes' form, he's someone who could perhaps come in and bring some of that spark back into the team. It's a shame to be without that sort of quality, and essentially giving a player from your academy a better pathway into succeeding at Sporting. Mateus Pereira is another player who I'm disappointed to see leave. We've obviously got a nice situation now where Rafinha is playing really well. Jovan Cabral's come into the team and has made a great impact. And Nani, I think, has surprised a lot of people, because at the age of 31 or 32, and bad experiences at Valencia and Lazio, a lot of people were thinking, hold on, what kind of Nani are we getting here at Sporting? Thankfully, he's come in, he scored 3 goals in 4 games, and he's played very well in each of those games. But, it's early days. We're talking about a player who is aging. We don't know what Nani will be like in 6 months' time, 7 months' time. We don't know what his output will be. So perhaps that inventiveness that we could have had in Mateus might be something we missed further down the line. Those two departures, certainly with what we had, Geraldo and Mateus are the two departures that I'm most disappointed in, especially in the circumstances that they went. Obviously, that they wanted first team football, and they didn't. I don't think both left on the best terms. It was sort of an impasse between them and the management, so that's never nice to see as well. But the gap in midfield is another thing that really concerns me with William gone as well. I don't think we've covered ourselves properly in that regard.
Yeah, and in that, I 100% agree with you. Quickly, just a question on, because you brought up Mateus Pereira. Do you think the punishment fits the crime? I was a big fan of Peseiro coming out right after the game saying that he wants him to be mad, but he doesn't want him to take it to social media. Even having him training apart for a day or two, I was kind of in agreement with, but loaning him out, do you think that was the right move, or do you think we should have handled that differently?
It's tricky to say because obviously you never want your player, both as a fan or as the manager, to be airing the problems out in the public. and that's essentially what Matheus Pereira did. But again, as I said a few weeks ago, without knowing the details that go on behind the scenes,
For sure.
and what I believe is perhaps that there's a crop of young players who perhaps think they should be involved in the plans of the squad, and they may be playing really well in training, and certainly have done on previous loan spells. So perhaps there's a pocket of them that think they've done enough already to get into the first team, and perhaps under a different manager, that sort of hard work would have been retributed, but it hasn't in this situation, and these players and Sporting have gone their separate ways temporarily. Given what Matheus Pereira could give to the team, as well as Geraldo, that there's no doubt in my mind I wouldn't. The punishment is fair that they can train alone and whatnot, or perhaps even just leave them on the touchline while others play and work hard. But to get rid of them indefinitely for the season, I think will hurt Sporting more, because I think these are players that Sporting would find useful in the long run. So I don't think the punishment, at least from Sporting's point of view, I don't think it will turn out to be an intelligent one to dish out.
I 100% agree. Quickly, just to give my thoughts of the transfer window, I think we did all right. I think we could have done a lot better. There was definitely holes to be filled. I think I wasn't even too concerned with another striker. I get the a lot of Sportingistas have said we shouldn't be too reliant on Bas Dost like we were or have been the past 2 seasons at least. And I agree with that, but I think I'm hoping at least Diaby comes in and is that guy to help us out in the goal department and help us out with Bas Dost. I think obviously he didn't play against Feirense because he may need a bit more time to integrate to the squad and get down the ideas. I think that the hole that we needed to fill that we didn't was definitely our left back position, especially seeing as Peseiro. This game Acuna played for a left back for a little bit, but seeing as Peseiro doesn't want to play Acuna there, I think we missed a golden opportunity of getting back Fabio Coentrão, who I still don't understand how we didn't pick him up, especially after him and Real Madrid came to an agreement to rescind contracts. How he ends up at Rio Ave, it's beyond me, and it frustrates me to see things as him coming out saying that, he was waiting around for Sporting, but Sporting never gave him a call. It was quite annoying, especially the fact that we need a left back, in my eyes, at least, in my personal opinion. Aside from that, I think the acquisitions, for the most part, were good. The only one I'm confused about is Renan, who came in but Solen's been doing so well that I'm not too sure why we needed Renan, but all right. I'm happy with Viviano. I think he's a decent replacement for Rui Patricio. The center backs didn't need much touching, and we basically didn't. We just got Marcelo, who's a leader from the back. And then in terms of Sturaro, I agree with Nando, and I disagree with Nando in a bit. And obviously, Nando, you can touch on this after, but I think he's a really good player nonetheless. I think, of course, it's annoying that he comes back injured. If it was a serious long-term injury, if he only comes back in December or later, then definitely this move makes zero sense at all. But if he's to come back in October or November-ish, it'll be a nice little acquisition for us if he comes back fit, because he is a good midfielder and very adaptable too. Last year in the Champions League, he even played left back against us, so he's an adaptable player and a very good midfielder. So I don't mind it as much. Of course, it's annoying that he came to us injured, but he's a decent player, so I'm not too upset with that. Especially seeing as we still have midfielders like Battaglia and we did get Gudelian, which sort of softened that blow. And yeah, basically, if I had to give our transfer market a grade, I'd give us a B minus, or a B actually. I'll be a bit nicer. I think we did what we had to do to replace the players that left. Of course, we could have replaced William better, but with our budget, it doesn't help. I think though Gudeli will be a good option, but he's not quite William. And we definitely needed a left back. Some would say we would need a forward. I'm fine with the forwards we have, but I would be all right with and even another forward. I was expecting just a bit more, so I'll give it a B. Nando, do you want anything to say about my thoughts on Storaro or?
Yeah, man, it's it's tough to say, man. I agree with what you said, and obviously you guys heard what I had to say about the guy. He could very much end up being a very important player for the second half of the season. So there's that to look forward to. But just off of the basis that Sporting decided to literally go after a guy who was not going to be helpful for basically the first half of the season, and then assume that following this injury, which is not an easy injury, that he comes back and plays well enough that it's worth waiting this time. So there's a lot of I don't know, man. I don't know if the words is low risk, high reward, because I maybe that's the way Sporting sees it. Juve paying the majority of the contract, if not all of it, takes care of the responsibilities of bringing him up to par, ships him back to us, and we reap the benefits at that point. But to touch base a little bit on what all you guys said, I don't know. I would give the whole transfer market, if we're going to include players that left, probably like a B. Patrick brought up a good point that I didn't even consider, but we did not find a guy that was going to replace a William Carvalho to even close to his standards. But the idea to me is not a William Carvalho. He's far from a William Carvalho. William Carvalho was a true, complete six-man on that field. He was going to recover that ball and he was going to start play from the back. And he was a rare talent in terms of being able to bring the ball up the field and just be able to find players with his passes. But the idea is very much bowling ball in the middle of the field. But we need him. We like him, but he's not going to do what William did. So not doing that is frustrating. Also, if we're going to go that route and we're not going to find a replacement for a William Carvalho, then how in the world do we justify, and we've all talked about before, letting a Painha leave? Leaving a guy like that leave, and the way he left, that just baffles me. Letting Mateus Pereira leave baffles me. And quite honestly, Patrick mentioned as well, but letting the Geralds leave baffles me. These are three guys that very well could have some started, some start, some come off the bench, all come off the bench. Those are guys that are cheap options that we know are, in most cases, better options than what we currently have on the bench. And they're no worse than who we have on the field. No worse than who we have on the field or on the bench at any given time. So to let those three homegrown talents leave the way they left is super frustrating, because neither of those three players left in a good manner. Painha didn't leave in a good manner. I think that whole transfer in itself was disgusting, and the rules which we have to abide by to bring him back just pisses me off. Geralds was kind of, in a way, politely / not politely forced out of the club. And then we know what happened with Mateus Pereira. The guy wants to start. The guy had a good preseason, and somehow having a good preseason, being young and talented, didn't translate over to deserving of a spot on the team. So overall, I'd probably say like a B. But those three guys leaving, Sporting could have done so much more with that.
I'd just like to, on Mateus Pereira, in terms of comparing how to treat him, if you guys recall correctly, when he was loaned to Chaves last season, he also had a few difficulties at the start, settling in with his attitude. But Chaves didn't say, we're sending this kid back. Luis Castro stuck by him and tried to mould himself around the players' needs. And what Chaves got was a fantastic player by the end of the season. Sometimes there needs to be a bit of flexibility with the managers and they need to understand that these players are young and they're hungry, and they will do silly things in the meantime to get what they want, which is essentially start for the team. But it's about how you channel that hunger in the future, and I think Sporting just shut the door completely on him and threw him out the window. Essentially, I think Sporting could have managed the situation a little bit better, perhaps been a little bit more flexible, and you know, we would have had a very decent player by the end of the season for sure in Mateus Pereira. Also, to add to what I said about William, I also think Sporting might be lacking someone who can be a bit more complete up top, like an alternative to Dost. I'm not sure whether DRB quite has the attributes and to be that sort of player. I know he's a very quick striker, someone who can get in behind and perhaps offer something that we thought we'd get out of Dumbia, but we never really did last season. But you know, someone like a Muriel, who obviously by the end of the transfer window rejected us. Someone like that would have been very nice for Sporting to pick up. Someone a little bit more creative along the forward line that you can play against a big team. Essentially, for example, when we go away to Arsenal, Arsenal will play a high line. We can't really expect Dost to run in behind and beat the defenders for pace. We'd have another pacey striker who, at the same time as being pacey, can be very tricky and create opportunities for others. I'm not sure whether Diaby is that type of striker. I know he's very quick, but I also think that Diaby might be someone who Peseiro has an eye on playing from the left, because he has played as a left winger in the past before. So I think what we might be looking at is Dost and perhaps Freddie Montero being our key strikers for the season, and Diaby filling in when needed or coming in coming in from the left wing.
Yeah, I agree. Though I don't know. I just wrote this down on the chat here on YouTube, and maybe I'm asking for too much, or maybe I'm being delusional. But I'm hoping Diaby can sort of give us a bit of nostalgia or reminiscence of Liatzen with his power and pace. I'm hoping that he can come in and, like you said, be the figure that we expected Doumbia to be last season. But only time will tell, and we'll see. And so to finish this one off, Patrick, what would you give our transfer window if you had to give it a letter grade?
I don't think I'd be as generous as you are. I think I'd probably give it a C-, to be honest, because you know, replacing William, it was, in my opinion, is a fundamental mission that Sporting should have completed. And then obviously, if you factor in the fact that there's perhaps one slot available for a more complete striker to come into the side. I know a lot of people wanted a left back, so that could have been added. And obviously, the departures of, as you say, Mateus Pereira and Francisco Geraldes, you know, that's left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth. But we have picked up some very interesting players in the meantime. Rafinha, Bruno Gaspar, Storaro a player who's quite similar to Battaglia and could add something interesting in the Portuguese division. Perhaps some things that we haven't seen from him in the Italian league. So, you know, there are some interesting players there that have come through the door. But you know, C-. I reckon there was room for improvement there, and Sporting could have done better with their business. But, you know, probably scrape a pass.
Yeah. All right, cool. And now for the final segment of the show, as most of you guys should know, elections are coming on Saturday. Sporting will have a new president at the end of it. Some quick little updates that happened throughout the week, or I think it happened yesterday, or the day before. Pedro Medeiros Rodrigues has finally he stepped down, and he's joined Ricciardi on his list. So our candidates are as followed. We have João Benedito. Actually, let me pull this up. I think so. We have João Benedito as lista A. In Lista B, we have Federico. Okay. I don't know. Let me just name them by names. Forget the Lista. So we have João Benedito. We have Federico Fernandes. We have Dias Ferreira. We have José Maria Ricciardi. We have Fernando Tavares Pereira. And we also have Rui Jorge Rego running for president. Nando, I'll start with you. What do you think of these candidates? There have been some polls released this week of João Benedito sort of in the lead, but trailing close behind is Varandas. What do you make of those polls? And in all, who do you want to become the next president of Sporting?
I think it's going to be. I think everything's up in the air, man. I think we would all agree that the majority of fingers point to it being a Benedito Varandas showdown. I think Ricciardi might make a late push, with Pedro Madeira Rodrigues joining forces with him. I think that'll consolidate some of those votes that way. And I think Di Ricci was already close to like 14 to 18% of the vote, according to several polls. Yeah. But I don't think that's enough for him to creep up unless he pulls something out last minute. And I'm glad to see that be the case. Unless we have some more corruption inside the Sporting in terms of like we all feel that there's some shadiness going on with like the last General Assembly that puts him at the presidency. I think that it's going to come down to a Benedito Varandas. I, at this point, would prefer to see Benedito be president. I would like to see a guy. If I have to choose between the two, I haven't missold on any of these guys, but if I had to choose between the two, I would go with Benedito. I think just his younger spirit, his kind of, he's got a little bit of Bruno Carvalho thought process in him. He doesn't have the fire that I would like to see him have. But Varandas kind of bugs me. I think he's an opportunist, like a lot of the rest of these guys. I think that he jumped in and noticed that being able to make $10,000 a year or whatever the president makes sounds good. Probably more than what he was making. I don't know what he was making, but he just seems like an opportunist. And I think that Benedito offering a little bit of Bruno Carvalho ideas. I think Benedito being able to understand and appreciate the modalities and what Sporting is outside of soccer is very important, because a lot of these candidates have expressed, especially Di Ricci, that obviously the main goal, we would all agree, is to be champion in football. That is our, pride and joy that we would love to see happening every year. But most Sportingistas are going to agree that what we also pride ourselves in is those modalities, is being able to compete across so many different sports and be able to do so at a high level. And a lot of these candidates have expressed that in order for Sporting to win the Portuguese league after so many years, that they're going to have to cut back on funds and fundings and even maybe possibly eliminate sports again in order to accommodate being able to invest more on the professional team. I don't like that. So I hope that Benedito does not allow that to happen and he finds a decent balance and he kind of goes with it that way. So my pick, if I had to choose right now, what is today? The 5th of September. I would go with Benedito. And I think it's going to be a close one between him and Fernandes, but anything can change till the last second, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And same question goes to you, Patrick. Who's caught your eye on these elections, and what do you make of it?
Well, for me, my opinion hasn't changed. Still, if I was to pick someone, it'd definitely be in between the front runners, which is Benedito and Varandas. I think Benedito is someone who is growing on me, and he's got his priorities straight in terms of protecting Sporting's values and making sure that the core ethos of the club is firstly established, and then secondly spread and felt right throughout the organisation, which is nice and is important, because I think Sporting, as a big club and as a historic club, as we like to think of ourselves, to have those values, it's something that we should treasure, and it's something that we should make sure is carried with every single player, as is across the world with the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern Munich. You know, that they have this sort of aura about them that goes with them wherever they are. So Sporting needs to instill that, and with it comes a winning mentality and a hunger for success. And I really do see Bundito pushing for that kind of attitude at Sporting, which is everything that Sporting needs mentally. I like parts of Varandas' candidacy as well. I like his thoughts on how Sporting needs to be more proactive with their scouting. As I mentioned a few pods ago, scouting is essentially, it's, in my opinion, it's what Sporting has to hold on to if they one day want to creep up on the very big European teams and at the very best of stages. Essentially, I think Sporting, we have to be realistic. We don't have the funds that a Man City or a Real Madrid has, so we have to be smart about how we operate, and being smart in the footballing environment is via scouting. We have to get to the very best players, the young players, before everyone else, and we have to do our homework essentially at a pace where we can bring in a player and in 2-3 years sell him for 10, 15 times more than what he came in for. And I think Varandas gets that idea. He's spoken very candidly about tapping into the South American market, the Eastern European market. You know, he's located areas in Portugal where he believes the best talent comes from. He's spoken about expanding and improving the facilities that are available for the talents that Sporting already has. And so, you know, these are all very positive things, which I think both Bundito and Varandas bring to the plate. And I think those are the ideas, out of all of the ideas that have been presented, those are the ideas that will advance Sporting more and make Sporting more competitive, both domestically and continentally. Also, the two candidates who, in my opinion, place great amount of value in the modalities and making sure that the feel-good factor that was left with Bruno Carvalho. You know, it was great to see Sporting triumph in handball and in futsal and whatnot. So to preserve that, it will be nice to see. We do have to be careful though, because polls with Sporting themselves have been caught on the wrong side of a poll before, where everyone thought it'd be in between Bruno Carvalho and Coseiro to win the elections back in 2011, and we woke up to Godinho Lopes being president. Yep. So, and obviously there's bigger examples with Brexit here in Britain and Donald Trump over in America. So, yep. You know, polls can be deceiving, and we just never know what will happen until those results come out. So, Sporting will have to be patient, and the members will have to think very carefully about what they do and who they vote for. But you know, most importantly, it's important that the fans do vote and do express their opinion over what direction they feel the club should go into based on these 6 candidates. For me, I think that both Bundito and Varandas would be good choices. I admire someone like Dias Ferreira, but I'm not sure in terms of getting behind that project. I'm not sure he's quite at the level of a Bundito or Varandas. And as for the others, they've either been too low key in Tavares Pereira's case, too low key, or very far from convincing in Richarli's case and Jorge's case. So for sure, I think Bundito and Varandas are the favourites, and I think those are the 2 candidates that members should be looking at.
Yeah, and I actually agree with you there. I've been a big advocate for Benedito for these last couple of weeks, but Varandas has come around to me. I've been warming up to him. I think this latest interview he had with Sporting160 over in Portugal, our mother company, if you will, really changed my whole outlook on him. He I don't want to say convinced me because he hasn't necessarily done that yet, but he's at least put me a bit more relaxed that if he does win, I'm not necessarily too worried if he does win, because I think he won't. How can I say this? He'll try to do the best for us in terms of like sporting wise. He's trying to change up the system and how we work. He's trying to make the academy players live Sporting a lot more than they have in recent years. He spoke about how in his scouting system he won't only look if the player is a good player or not. He'll look even to the fact if he's gained 5 pounds in 3 weeks of vacation. He isn't the type of player for Sporting because, or not 5 pounds, but like 10 kilograms sort of thing, because that shows a bad characteristic in the player. So definitely the years he's been behind the scenes as a medic has definitely helped him and has definitely showed me that he definitely knows what he's talking about when he says, he's from the Balneários. So it rests my mind a bit just in case he does win, seeing as, again, as you said, the polls could be wrong, but seeing as he is a front runner as of right now, I would prefer Benedito. I think Benedito has mentioned a lot of things that I like. He's mentioned the academy for both football and other modalities like handball, like volleyball, like his futsal. He definitely is a man of modalities that will want to continue the modalities that won't look at the 5 million or 10 million that we spend on modalities as a waste of money. And definitely a man that'll look to invest more. He also comes with a few interesting names in his list that I think will do wonders and help out Sporting's name. Especially, for example, Peter Schmeichel, I think a good advocate for Sporting, somebody that can really bring us to the forefront in Europe. And then we have Dias Ferreira, who I'm also okay with if he wins, though I don't think he necessarily has a chance. Again, from Sporting's 160's interview, he gave me a different side. I think the debates, though, were good, but some were very bad. I think the way some candidates entered certain debates on Sporting TV and even elsewhere definitely left a bad taste in my mouth for some of them, including Benedito, including Varandas. I think there was a lot of bickering going on, whereas these interviews, and they've been doing them with Sporting TV, just the individual ones, it gives you, they really focus on their programs and their ideas. And Dias Ferreira, like I was saying, on Sporting 160 is really, I've really grown to his ideas. He was talking about he has investment in investors, I should say, in Africa, willing to basically spend the money for academy products coming out of Africa in their countries. We wouldn't necessarily have to spend a dime. The only thing that would happen was basically they would take a percentage of the sale if we were to get the kid and bring him to Lisboa. And so I think with these three, I think Sporting are in decent hands. I think these three are the best candidates for Sporting. Though if I could vote, unfortunately I can't because I'm not a socio for a year yet. My vote would go for Benedito. And I really hope that I don't wake up to or find news like we did in 2011 where, like you said, Patrick, we were between Cruzeiro and Bruno Carvalho, and randomly it was Godinho Lopes. I hope the same doesn't happen this year where, we're a bit optimistic about Benedito and Varandas, and Ricciardi ends up winning it. I think Ricciardi, to me at least, is the most dangerous candidate. He's come out and said he doesn't see himself at Sporting for too long, which goes with what Nando was saying about him and others seeming like an opportunist, which I think Ricciardi is the most obvious one. the panic he tries to cause, saying that our finances are really bad and that we owe 125 or that we're 125 million euros in debt or something along those numbers. Whereas we have rivals like Benfica and Porto whose debt is much higher, who still spend money I don't think I don't think Ricciardi really gets the concept of this club and again I think to refer to the other three, they've all come out and said that to make money, results matter. So the farther we go in European competitions, the higher we finish in the league. That to guarantee us that Champions League money will only help us and further us, and for long-term financial growth, restructuring of the academies or building new academies, getting more top young prospects in. Varandas with his scouting, it's not so short-term like Ricciardi's campaign. It's more long-term, and those signs are very optimistic, in my opinion, for me. And yeah, Nando, do you have anything else you want to add to election talk?
Sorry, guys, I was on talking. We were doing the same thing you were doing. No, man, I think you guys all covered it. I think that the election coming up the 8th is going to be hopefully a turning point for the club for the better. I hope that, if anything, everybody learned a little bit of the good that Bruno Carvalho brought to the fucking team. Yeah. I hate to use, the cuss word right there, but he really brought a lot of passion and excitement to Sporting fans as a whole that we haven't seen quite arguably in many, many, many years. I'm 28 years old, and I remember I've never seen that much hype and that much excitement revolving a team and its fan base on a week-to-week basis before at any particular point since Bruno Carvalho took over. So I'm hoping that at the very least, everybody, all of the candidates can sit there and agree, even if they don't want to admit it. Not all of them have. Some have just a little hint here or there, but they can at least admit that Bruno Carvalho brought a lot of good things to the table. We can forget about the bad things he's done or his personality, this or that. But if they can all remember that and try to implement that kind of passion, that kind of love for the team, that kind of excitement, then I think that they should be on a good path to do a good job for the club, which is all we want. And the page, and we can just start worrying about the modalities and the team and leave the presidency and what kind of decisions he's making for the cafe talk and hopefully not something that's plastered all over the media on a day-to-day basis. So that's my hope. If any candidate can do that, then I'll be happy at the end of the day, because we're all Sportingistas. So if Sporting's doing well, then we're going to be happy.
Exactly. Okay, we got Steph to add us on, he's come back. Steph, just really quickly before we end it, because we have been going on for an hour and 11. Your 5 to 8 minute little synopsis, if shorter, better, no worries, of the elections. I know we already voted, so talk us through of what you thought about it and who's your guy.
Okay, so first of all, my apologies, but I'm still working. Yeah, I'm still working, so that's why I had to step out and actually do something for a living. But anyway, so about the elections, I already voted for Benedict. After listening to all of them and looking at all the programs in detail, I mean, my first choice was always Bruno Carvalho, but he was not up for elections. And I had to pick Benedict. The other ones didn't convince me at all. The one person I kind of liked was the old man, Tavares. But he doesn't know anything about sports as far as the sporting world, modalidades, football. He doesn't know much about that. He's good with finances because his personal businesses are in really, really good shape. So, but I think if he gets involved in the near future, he might have a shot 4 years from now. But, I had no doubts it had to be Benedict, not only because he was a professional futsal player, he was also the captain. and he knows the club inside out. After listening to him on Sporting 160, it's actually the best tool. It's Sporting 160. Um, he gave me another perspective, which he knows about how to manage a corporation. 'Cause that's what he does with his parents, with his family. They manage their own business, so he knows all about budgets. He knows all about how to pay salaries on time, and so I was very content with his ideas. He wants to stay with the academy and develop the youth we have in the academy instead of buying a ton of players, which now I think we have over 100 players. We just keep on loaning them and stuff like that. He wants to get rid of that. And on top of it, he wants to still stay on top of the modalities, as understands that Portuguese do support the modalities. It's not only football. Because of all these reasons, and he has showed some great solutions on how to solve the finances. I think he has a good relationship, him and his family, with the bankers. So it gives me a peace of mind. So Benedito all the way, which is just a few days away, and I already voted for him. My father too, so he's got four votes from us, and pretty much, I mean, he's the only one who convinced me. I didn't believe in Ricardo. He was not successful as a banker, so why would I vote for him? Never in my life. Already spoke about the Tavares. He's pretty good, but and then PMR joined Ricardo, I believe. Am I right about that? They
Yeah,
joined
PMR.
forces.
Yeah, Richardo. Yeah. If Richardo wins, I believe PMR is vice president, vice president.
Exactly. And then Varandas. Uh, I like these ideas, but the problem with Varandas is he left when Sporting needed him, and to me, that's an act of of a coward. Didn't like that at all. So because of that reason, and I didn't like his ideas either. So, but that's all I got to say. And o outro Rego, he didn't convince me at all, but not even a little bit. Um, and what else? Am I missing somebody else?
No,
Uh,
I think you said them all. Dias
I
Freire, you
think
said.
no, I didn't say Dias Freire.
Oh,
I
sorry, I
was
meant yeah.
yes, no, the good call. Dias Freire was actually my second option. I was like debating between them two, but then I just like Bundit because I don't know. He talks better. In front, he presents himself better. Os discursos que ele fez, all that stuff, like he was much better than this Freire. Like I think Patty said a few times, this Freire he gets involved emotionally too much, and I don't want that as my president. I want someone that can control his emotions, in front of the camera, in front of yeah, journalists and stuff like that. I don't want someone that's going to be like overreacting or too emotional. I don't want that. And I think that was the key reason why I voted for him. And I like the solutions better than these Freire. But if these Freire wins, I'm not going to be that upset. And that's it.
All right, perfect stuff. We've come to the end of the show. Just quickly, the next game will be against Marítimo on the 16th on Sunday for the Taça de Liga. And then after that, we receive Karabag at home for Europa League. Guys, anything you want to add? Anything you haven't said? Anything that's burning on your chest and you want to get out?
Just the predictions?
If you want the predictions for Marítimo, actually, yeah, that's a good point. Predictions for Marítimo, and who do you expect to see that you haven't seen so far? Steph, I'll start with you. You haven't said much today.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I mean, I was at the beginning of the show and at the end. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
I know. I'm telling you, we just got busy all of a sudden.
No worries.
Basically, it's going to be I hope, I don't know for sure because Bezerro didn't say how he wants to approach the League Cup. He could say, "Hey, I want to go full force with my A team."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know yet. He hasn't said anything, but me, I'm hoping he does like a mix of. We already have a Taça da Liga. in our museum. We don't need another one. I don't give two shits about that cup, to tell the truth.
Yeah.
I think it's a good chance to mix it up, like sub-23 players and the less used players in our bench. So from the A team, I think we have a total of 25 players, if I'm not mistaken, in the A squad. So give them a few minutes, mix it up with the sub-23 team, and we'll still have a pretty good team to win. Sporting is always we want to win, so mix it up. That's how I would like it to be in the League Cup. If we don't win it, nobody gets really upset about that, unless it's a Sporting Benfica, Sporting Porto in the final. Of course, we want to win, and then I'm pretty sure that will be the A team. But for the group stage, mix it up. That's what I would tell Poseidon. And I would hope for prediction for that. I don't know what to say, but I would hope for 2-0. I can predict not knowing the team, but at 2-0, I would hope.
For sure. And it's also a long time. It's almost 2 weeks away, that game, anyways, because of the international break that's currently happening. Patrick, anything you want to say, and quick prediction for the Marítimo game for the Taça Liga?
With regards to what we've spoken about, I think we've covered everything. But given it will be a League Cup game against Marítimo, and we've got a home game against Karabag, and then a game away to Braga the next weekend. I will expect Poseidon to mix his team up a bit. I will be a little bit pessimistic in regards to that and say I think it will be a 1-1 draw. That's just the score that's in my head with rotation. I don't think Sporting's at the level yet with their main team. So for there to be a lot of changes, I'm expecting a little bit more of a drop-off. So I could see a 1-1 draw against Marítimo. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday.
Yeah, fair enough. To be fair, I'm sort of pessimistic on my result as well. Nando, anything you want to add, and quick prediction for Taça Liga against Marítimo?
Man, you guys have done great covering pretty much everything that I've, had any desire to talk about. But, the game against Marítimo has to be a rotational game. It has to be a game where, in my opinion, we bring in guys like Giovanni, let him start. Bring in the guys that we just brought off the transfer wire, the Diabis and the Gudelis and all those dudes. We got it. We all agree that Taça means nothing to us. That ended after Lucílio Batista, but we need to allow these kids and these other players an opportunity to showcase what they can do. Wendell, these guys have to play those games start to finish, at least start the game, because if they're not going to do it during those games, that's going to be detrimental to their psyche. I feel so bad for Wendell. I believe in him. I think he's an enormous talent. There's other players there that we can all throw on the table that bring a lot to the table. And those are what those games are for. So hopefully Poseidon obviously thinks the same way. He's the coach. But everybody pretty much agrees that needs to happen. I'm still going to say I'm apprehensive about the presidency. Obviously, that's still the biggest topic until that happens, and probably even thereafter. But overall, I'm excited that Sporting has 10 points, given we've already played a rival at their stadium. I'm optimistic, and Viva Sporting. Let's see what the future holds.
Well said. Well said. Guys, to finish this off, because I forgot to mention, there's a thread on our Twitter page at Sporting160EN, where you can see every debate, every interview, every group debate. Even the fucking vice-president went in a week ago, I think it was, to debate. So every video you can find on YouTube, I have the thread down there. Go crazy before these elections. Try to be as informed as possible. Information is power, and it'll obviously help you guys decide who you want to vote for. That is it from us. We hope you enjoyed another podcast from us. We will see you and talk to you guys very soon. And ciao, viva Sporting.
Viva.